Police officers harassed a woman on the street, but they had no idea who she really was. Olivia Parker stepped out of the cafe, the lingering warmth of laughter still on her lips from an evening spent with friends. She adjusted the strap of her sleek black handbag, her white dress fluttering slightly in the evening breeze. The city was alive. Cars honked in the distance. People hurried past, lost in their own worlds. Just as she turned toward the parking lot, a sharp voice cut through the noise. "Ma'am, stop right there." Two uniformed police officers approached her with authoritative strides. The taller one, Officer James Carter, had a hardened face and eyes that carried an unsettling coldness. Beside him, Officer Daniel Roberts, a younger man, looked uneasy as he followed his partner's lead. Olivia blinked in confusion. "Is there a problem, officers? We're investigating a theft in the area," Carter said, his gaze sweeping over her from head to toe. "We need to search your bag." A ripple of annoyance flickered across Olivia's face. "I've done nothing wrong. I was just having coffee with friends." She gestured toward the cafe behind her. "I don't see why." Carter didn't wait for her to finish. He yanked the handbag from her grasp and began rifling through it with zero regard for her personal space. Olivia's pulse spiked. "Excuse me," she snapped, reaching to snatch it back. "You can't just stay still," Carter barked, not even sparing her a glance. Passers-by began slowing down, their eyes flicking between the officers and the well-dressed woman whose privacy was being blatantly invaded. Some whispered, some shook their heads, but no one stepped forward. After a few moments of rummaging, Carter tossed the bag back at her. "Nothing," he muttered, clicking his tongue in irritation. Then, his gaze darkened, and he took a step closer. "But we still need to make sure you're not hiding anything else." Olivia's breath hitched. "Excuse me?" Without warning, Carter crouched and grabbed the hem of her dress. A surge of horror shot through Olivia's body. "No, you can't do this," she shrieked, instinctively pressing her hands down to stop him. But Carter was stronger. With a twisted smirk, he yanked her dress up past her knees, exposing her thighs to the open street. Gasps rippled through the crowd. An elderly woman shook her head in disgust. "My God, what is this world coming to?" she murmured. A businessman in a suit whispered to his colleague, "Cops can do whatever they want. Who's gonna stop them?" Olivia's face burned with humiliation. Fury coursed through her veins as she slapped Carter's hands away, her voice shaking with rage. "This is assault. You're humiliating me. I'll sue you for this." Carter let out a low, mocking laugh. "Go ahead, sweetheart. File your little complaint. See where it gets you." Daniel Roberts, who had been standing rigidly to the side, finally found his voice. "James, maybe that's enough," he murmured hesitantly. Carter's head snapped toward him, his eyes flashing with warning. "Do you have something to say, rookie?" Daniel swallowed hard and looked away, his fists clenched at his sides. Olivia's chest rose and fell with heavy breaths, her nails digging into her palms as she fought back tears of rage. This man thought he was untouchable, that he could degrade her and walk away unscathed. She took a shaky breath, then lifted her chin high. "You'll regret this." Her voice was steel despite the fire raging inside her. Carter smirked. "I'll be waiting." With that, Olivia turned on her heel and stormed away, her hands gripping the fabric of her dress, her whole body trembling. The stares of strangers burned into her skin like invisible scars. But none of them mattered. Only one thought consumed her now. She would not let this go. Olivia slammed the door behind her, the sound echoing through her small apartment. She barely made it to the living room before her legs gave out, sending her collapsing onto the couch. Her whole body trembled, a mixture of rage, humiliation, and disbelief churning inside her. Her hands, still clutching the fabric of her dress, refused to loosen. The feeling of his grip on her, the way Officer Carter had manhandled her like she was nothing, like she had no rights, no dignity, it sent shivers of revulsion down her spine. Tears pricked at her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Crying wouldn't change what had happened. Crying wouldn't erase the memory of the onlookers, the whispers, the pity in their gazes as they watched her be degraded in the middle of the street. Her phone buzzed beside her, snapping her out of her spiraling thoughts. Helen, her best friend, the one person who would always be on her side. She hesitated for a moment, then grabbed the phone with shaky fingers. "Olivia, are you okay?" Helen's voice was laced with concern the second the call connected. At that, something inside Olivia broke. The dam of emotions she had been barely holding together came crashing down. "No," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I'm not okay. Helen, he lifted my dress. Right there. In front of everyone." A sharp intake of breath from the other end of the line. Then, rage. "What?" "It was horrible," Olivia continued, her voice rising. "I tried to fight back. But he was stronger. He just laughed. Helen, he humiliated me. And no one did a damn thing." Helen didn't hesitate. "You have to report him." Olivia let out a bitter laugh, running a hand through her hair. "To who? The police?" "Helen, he is the police. You think they'll take my word over his?" He was so confident, so smug, like he knew he could get away with it. Like he's done it before. Helen's voice turned sharp with determination. "Then we don't go to the police. We go above them. A lawyer, the media, a women's rights organization, anyone who will listen. He doesn't get to walk away from this. Olivia, you have to fight back." Olivia swallowed hard. The thought of standing up against Carter, of dragging this into the open, terrified her. But the alternative, staying silent, letting him do this to someone else, was even worse. She exhaled shakily. "Okay," she said, gripping the phone tighter. "I'll do it." Helen was silent for a beat. Then her voice softened. "I'll be with you every step of the way." A fresh wave of emotion swelled in Olivia's chest, not fear. Not despair. But something stronger. Resolve. She refused to be just another victim. Carter may have humiliated her that night. But he had no idea what kind of fire he had just ignited. He would regret ever laying a hand on her. The next morning, Olivia woke up feeling different. The fear, the humiliation, it was still there, lingering beneath the surface like an old wound that refused to heal. But alongside it was something new. Something sharper. Determination. She wasn't going to let Officer Carter get away with this. She spent the first half of the day researching online, her fingers flying over the keyboard as she scoured forums, legal websites, and advocacy groups. Her heart pounded every time she typed his name into the search bar. Half expecting to find nothing, half dreading what she might find. But then, a post caught her eye. It was buried deep in a forum for women who had experienced police misconduct. The words were short, but they sent a chill down her spine. "I was searched in public by a cop. Humiliated. He acted like he enjoyed it. It felt wrong, but who would believe me?" Olivia's pulse raced. She clicked on the user's profile, quickly scanning through their other posts. No name, no identifying details, just a vague location that matched hers. It wasn't proof, not yet, but it was enough to make her wonder. Had Carter done this before? Her phone buzzed, snapping her out of her thoughts. Helen's name flashed across the screen. "Hey," Olivia answered, rubbing her temple. "Did you sleep at all?" Helen's voice was filled with concern. "A little," Olivia exhaled, "but I've been digging. Helen, I think he's done this to other people." There was a pause. Then Helen spoke, her tone turning cold with anger. "We need to find them." "How?" Olivia asked, though her mind was already racing. "Social media, forums, news archives, hell, even word of mouth. We know he's a predator. If we can find others, they might be willing to speak out too. And if there's more than one victim, it'll be a lot harder for them to ignore us." Helen was right. This wasn't just about her anymore. If Carter had done this before, he'd do it again unless someone stopped him. Olivia sat back, staring at the ceiling as her heart pounded. It was time to find the truth. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for all of them. Determined to bring Officer Carter to justice, Olivia dove deeper into her search. The post she had found earlier haunted her. It wasn't just a one-time act of abuse. If there were others, they had to be found. With Helen's help, Olivia scoured every corner of the internet, online forums, social media pages, legal advocacy groups, anywhere victims might have shared their stories. She typed in variations of the same search terms over and over: police misconduct, unlawful search, humiliation by a cop, public violation. Each result led to another link, another thread, another heartbreaking story. Then, she found it. A comment buried under a news article about police abuse. "It happened to me too. No one believed me. I just stopped talking about it." The username was anonymous, but the location matched Olivia's city. Her heart pounded as she sent a private message. "Hi, I saw your comment about an experience with a police officer. I went through something similar. I know this might be difficult to talk about. But if you're willing, I'd really like to connect. We don't have to be silent anymore." She didn't expect a response. But an hour later, a notification appeared. "You're not alone. It happened to me last year. I tried to report it. But they dismissed me. Who would believe someone like me over a cop?" The words sent a chill down Olivia's spine. This was bigger than she thought. She kept going, sending out more messages, hoping someone, anyone, would be brave enough to come forward. Some ignored her. Others offered vague confirmations but were too afraid to speak. But then, she found Marissa. Marissa was 24, a part-time college student and retail worker. When Olivia messaged her, she was hesitant at first. "I don't know if I can talk about this." But as Olivia shared her own experience, something shifted. "He did the same thing to me. In front of people. No one did anything." Marissa's words made Olivia's stomach twist. "If you're willing to speak up, I promise you won't be alone," Olivia told her. A long pause. Then, finally, "Okay, I'll do it." One voice turned into two. Two became three. By the end of the week, Olivia had found 4 other women who had been victimized by Carter. Helen was right. The system could silence one person, but it would have a much harder time ignoring 5. With new strength burning in her chest, Olivia knew this was just the beginning. With a list of victims now willing to speak out, Olivia felt a renewed sense of purpose. This wasn't just about her anymore, it was about all the women Carter had humiliated, intimidated, and silenced. It was about ensuring that no one else would suffer at his hands. She sat at her desk, staring at the notes she had gathered, her fingers trembling slightly as she reached for her phone. It was time. She dialed the number Helen had given her, the legal advocacy group that specialized in cases of police misconduct. The line rang twice before a calm, professional voice answered. "Women's Rights Advocacy Group, this is Sarah speaking. How can I help you?" Olivia took a deep breath. "My name is Olivia Carter. I was publicly humiliated by a police officer named Carter. I have evidence, and I'm not the only one." There was a brief pause on the other end. Then a shift in Sarah's tone, sharper, more focused. "Olivia, thank you for reaching out. You are incredibly brave for coming forward. Can you tell me exactly what happened?" Olivia closed her eyes and forced herself to relive the nightmare. Every degrading word, every moment of helplessness, the laughter of bystanders, the smug arrogance on Carter's face as he violated her dignity. She recounted it all, her voice steady but filled with suppressed emotion. When she finished, Sarah didn't hesitate. "We're going to help you. We'll start by filing a formal complaint. But cases like these are stronger when there are multiple voices." "You mentioned others?" "Yes," Olivia said firmly. 4 women have already agreed to testify." There was a brief silence before Sarah spoke again, her voice laced with determination. "That's more than enough to make them listen." For the first time in weeks, Olivia felt something other than fear. It was small, fragile, but unmistakable, hope. But the fight was far from over. 2 days later, she found herself sitting in the advocacy group's office, surrounded by the other victims, Marissa, Danielle, Sophie, and Rachel. Each of them carried their own pain, their own stories of how Carter had abused his power. A lawyer named Matthew, a sharp-eyed man with an air of quiet authority, entered the room. He looked at them all, his gaze serious yet filled with understanding. "Ladies," he began, "we are about to take on a battle that will not be easy. Officer Carter has likely gotten away with this for years, and he will fight back. But let me be clear, you have power now. Together, we are going to make sure he never does this again." Olivia glanced at the women around her. Marissa nodded, a spark of resolve in her eyes. Danielle clenched her fists. Sophie swallowed hard but sat up straighter. Rachel exhaled deeply and whispered, "It's time." And Olivia? She lifted her chin, her voice strong. "Let's do this." As Olivia and the other victims prepared for their legal battle, another force was quietly moving behind the scenes, Louis. For weeks, the guilt had been gnawing at him like a relentless storm. Every time he put on his uniform, every time he looked in the mirror, he saw a coward, a man who had stood by while Carter trampled over the dignity of innocent people. But no more. That morning, Louis sat in his patrol car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. Across from him, Carter was laughing, scrolling through his phone as if nothing in the world could touch him. The sight sickened Louis. The arrogance, the certainty that he was untouchable. "Hey, man, you okay?" Carter glanced at him with mild amusement. "You've been all tense lately. You need to relax, maybe get out more." Lewis forced himself to remain calm, his mind already made up. "I'm fine," he lied, "just a lot on my mind." Carter snorted. "Yeah? Well, get over it. We've got work to do." Lewis felt his stomach churn. Work. That's what Carter called it. He had seen it firsthand, how Carter would pick his targets with ease. Always choosing women who looked like they wouldn't fight back. How he abused his badge. Hiding behind the authority that should have been used to protect, not torment. And then there was Olivia. He hadn't been able to shake the memory of her standing there. Humiliated but defiant. The way her voice had trembled. Not from weakness, but from suppressed rage. And now, he had learned that she wasn't backing down. She had gone to a lawyer. She had gathered witnesses. She was fighting back. That was the final push Lewis needed. That afternoon, he made a call he never thought he'd have the courage to make. Women's Rights Advocacy Group. "This is Sarah speaking." Lewis inhaled sharply. "My name is Officer Lewis Mitchell," he said, his voice steady but tight. "And I have information on Carter that you need to hear." There was a pause. When Sarah spoke again, her voice was unreadable. "Go on." Lewis looked around, making sure Carter wasn't anywhere nearby. "I've been his partner. I've seen everything. What he did to Olivia, what he's done to others. I should have spoken up sooner. I didn't, but I'm ready now. Are you willing to testify?" Sarah asked, her voice sharp with urgency. Lewis hesitated for only a second before nodding. "Yes, I'll tell you everything." The silence on the other end felt heavy, almost electric, and then Sarah said the words that sealed his fate. "Then let's bring him down." For the first time in months, Lewis felt like he could breathe. He had been part of the problem for too long. Now, he was going to be part of the solution. The day Lewis stepped into the office of the Women's Rights Advocacy Group, he felt like a traitor. Not to Carter, but to the silence he had upheld for far too long. He had spent years convincing himself that looking the other way was just part of the job. That going against his partner would be career suicide. But as he sat across from Sarah, the sharp-eyed legal advocate leading Olivia's case, he realized something. He had already betrayed himself by staying silent. Sarah studied him carefully, her gaze both cautious and expectant. "Officer Mitchell, we appreciate you coming forward. But I need to know, are you ready to do this? Because once you go on record, there's no turning back." Lewis exhaled slowly. "I know," he said. "I should have done this a long time ago." "Then start from the beginning," Sarah urged. And so he did. For the next 2 hours, Lewis laid everything bare. The countless times Carter had used his badge as a weapon. The way he singled out women who were alone. How he humiliated them under the guise of routine searches. He described how Carter had smirked as Olivia walked away that night. Shaken but still standing, he spoke of the unwritten rule among officers. Protect your own, even when they don't deserve it. When he was done, the room was deathly silent. Sarah exchanged a glance with Pablo, the lawyer spearheading the case. He was already jotting notes, his eyes alight with something fierce and unrelenting. "This changes everything," Pablo murmured. "With your testimony, we have an insider confirming Carter's pattern of abuse. This isn't just a he said, she said case anymore. This is systemic misconduct." Sarah leaned forward, her voice urgent. "Lewis, we're going to file an official complaint and push for Carter's immediate suspension. But we need you to sign an affidavit. Once you do that, you're in this for real. Are you sure you can handle that?" Lewis didn't hesitate. "Give me the papers." As he signed, his hand trembled slightly, not with fear, but with the weight of his choice. When he looked up, Olivia was standing in the doorway. She had been listening. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. Then, slowly, Olivia stepped forward. "I never thought I'd see the day," she said, her voice steady but laced with something he couldn't quite name. "But I'm glad you're here." Lewis swallowed hard. "I should have helped you that night." Olivia tilted her head, studying him. "You're helping now. That's what matters." At that moment, Lewis realized something. He had spent years believing that standing against corruption would make him an outcast. But the truth was, this was the first time he truly felt like he belonged. He wasn't just another cop anymore, he was on the right side of justice. And for the first time in his career, that actually meant something. The morning of the trial was thick with tension. the kind that settled deep into Olivia's bones. She had barely slept, her mind replaying every cruel smirk Carter had thrown her way, every whisper of doubt she had battled. But today wasn't about fear. Today was about justice. As she walked into the courtroom, Alexander gripped her hand. "No matter what happens," he said softly, "we're not alone in this." And he was right. The courtroom was filled, not just with lawyers and officers, but with women who had once been too afraid to speak. Marina sat near the front, her fingers twisting anxiously in her lap. Caroline was there too, her shoulders squared despite the tremor in her hands. Even Clara had come, her jaw set with quiet determination. But the most shocking presence was Louis. He sat at the prosecution's table, his uniform crisp, his expression unreadable. The moment Carter saw him, his smirk faltered. It was a small thing, but Olivia saw it. And she knew then, Carter wasn't untouchable anymore. The judge entered, and the courtroom fell silent. This case involves allegations of misconduct, abuse of power, and violations of civil rights committed by Officer Carter Reynolds, the judge announced, her voice echoing through the chamber. The court will hear testimonies from both sides before reaching a verdict. Pablo stood first, his presence commanding. "Your Honor, this is not a case of mere misunderstanding. This is a pattern, a long history of abuse carried out under the shield of a badge. We have multiple victims, witnesses, and an officer willing to break the code of silence that has protected Carter Reynolds for too long." The defense attorney smirked. "Your Honor, my client is a decorated officer. These so-called victims are simply looking for attention, hoping to tarnish his reputation." Olivia's fists clenched beneath the table. But she stayed still. Let them talk. Let them underestimate her. They wouldn't for long. Marina was the first to testify. She stood, her hands trembling but her voice clear. "He stopped me on the street. Searched me even when I protested. He made me feel powerless." The defense pounced. "Do you have proof of this?" "No," Marina admitted, "but I have my truth." Caroline went next. "He humiliated me in front of my coworkers. Tore my blouse. Made me feel like I was nothing. I was too scared to report it. But I'm not scared anymore." Then Clara. Then another. Then another. One by one, the voices of the women Carter had silenced rose. Unshakable. And then, finally, it was Louis' turn. He stood, adjusting his uniform. His voice, when he spoke, was steady. "I was Carter Reynolds' partner for years. I saw what he did. I stayed silent. And I regret it. I can no longer be complicit in his abuse." Carter's lawyer scoffed. "Officer Mitchell, do you have any personal vendetta against my client?" "No," Louis said without hesitation, "but I do have a conscience. And it won't let me ignore what he's done anymore." Carter sat rigid in his chair, his face pale. The man who had once terrorized women with impunity was finally facing something he couldn't intimidate: the truth. When the judge called Olivia to the stand, she stood tall. She looked Carter directly in the eye as she spoke, refusing to flinch. "You didn't break me," she said, "and you never will." By the time closing statements were made, there was no doubt in the room: Carter Reynolds wasn't a protector of justice. He was a predator. The judge's voice was calm but firm as she delivered the verdict. "Officer Carter Reynolds is hereby found guilty of misconduct, abuse of authority, and multiple violations of civil rights. He is sentenced to 5 years in prison and is permanently barred from serving in law enforcement." The air in the courtroom shifted. A breath, a victory, as Carter was led away in handcuffs. His eyes locked on Olivia one last time. But there was no power in his gaze anymore, only disbelief. Outside the courtroom, Marina reached for Olivia's hand. "We did it," she whispered. Olivia exhaled, the weight on her chest finally lifting. "No," she corrected, glancing at Louis, at Alexander, at the women standing beside her. "We did this together." This story is a powerful reminder that silence enables injustice. When those in power abuse their authority, it takes courage and unity to stand against them. Olivia, alongside other victims and allies, proved that no one is above the law. Justice is not always immediate, but with determination and support, the truth will always prevail. If this story inspired you, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue telling impactful stories that shed light on injustice and resilience. Together, we can make a difference. Thank you for being part of this journey.